I have the Wheel of Fortune, the World, and the King of Cups. What this shows me is that he's highly sexually attracted to you, like in the best possible way. I mean, you're his total fantasy. I can see here that he has a dog and a cat. That's what it shows. Has a very impassioned dog. Like he's very, he must bark a lot and jump on people, and you know he's hyperactive. That's the impression I get. But he can be aggressive as well. So he's looking right at me. So he knows something about his master's crush on you. That's what these cards are showing, and he's jealous. So just be careful of that. His cat, on the other hand, thinks she's his favorite. Like, she doesn't think her place is compromised by you. You know, she sits atop the wheel, so she thinks, you know, she's a very regal type of cat, and she's very loyal to him, and she's very protective of him. And she's so protective that she feels like she's been honoured in some respect by him. So he must really dote over her, talk to her, tell her what a good pet she is, that sort of thing. Because I really get the impression that she's staunchly loyal to him, but not only that, she's she feels like she rules the roost. Now that description could also relate to yourself, but when I look at these cards, I feel it's relatable to the person you're asking about. And of course, that's just one particular example of what I can see in these cards, so it won't apply to all of you. But it must somehow be relevant because it shows up. It's almost as if your man is thinking about you so intensely. You know, he's fantasizing over you in a sexual way. He's thinking about how you're the center of his world. He's really getting emotional and sensitive over those two aspects. He imagines, like in a kind of hypothetical sense, you have a wreath around you in the mind of this man, which means that you're extremely important to him. You're almost like a victory to him in his mind, or somebody that he'd like to achieve something with, because you're a kind of prize to him. He prizes you highly, and it shows here that his challenge is his sensitive side. So you'd know from your dealings with him what I'm talking about. Maybe you picked up that he was a little bit touchy around his emotions. That's the kind of impression I get. Like he just feels things very intensely, and he can be hot and cold. That's the impression I'm getting. Sometimes he's very fiery, very angry, very moody, and other times he's just cool, calm, and collected. So that's the impression I get here, because he's extremely sensitive person. He feels everything that's going on around him. And his pets are picking up that he likes you extremely deeply because they're looking right at me. And his little dog is very annoyed. He's like angry. He's going to possibly bite somebody because they can see that you take up his attention. You're the center of his universe. That's what it shows in these cards, that you are central to his universe, you are central to his existence, and he puts you on an extremely high pedestal. And it shows it's born of jealousy as well. So he must be a guy that's really close to his pets. That's what it tells me. And he also enjoys being out on the water. He enjoys the beach and being out on the water. So it shows me here he has a home close to the beach, or he sits close to the beach. Now that could be on a boat. He has a seat on a boat which he sits on, which is his favourite spot, or a place near the beach, or a place in his apartment near the beach, and he sits in a chair. He just sits somewhere where he can see the ocean and experience the ocean, but it feels like he's right on it. So that kind of indicates to me that maybe he enjoys boating or something like that. If he's not into boating, he's into water activities. But it's just amazing how his pets come out in this reading. They're really dominating the reading. So I think in his existence, there are his pets and there is you. There is nobody else in his life. And you could even say the third party is his pets. That's how this reading looks to me, appears. But it shows he has some pets in heaven. It shows on the card he has 4 pets in heaven. So I'm just wondering. Actually, it shows he has 3 pets in heaven, and then somebody else that's very close to him or used to be close to him. So, and who is well read. I don't get the impression it's a parent though. I get the impression it's like a brother or a sister, and they used to look after these pets together because they're all together. They're all together where he is. And it shows that he has a bird. He had a bird. That shows very prominently. Could have grown up on a farm or some rural area. That's also what it shows. But they both must be well-read men. And it's almost as if his spirit guides are talking to me through this card and telling me that, you know, showing me how protective they are of him. So it's quite amazing that it shows up in a reading, because I don't often notice those elements, but it shows very prevalent. It's very prevalent in this reading. Shows also that you have some pets that have passed on. That's what it shows clearly. and it also shows like a member of your family as well as a spirit there. It looks to be a lady. That's what it shows. I get the impression with this card that has some plans for you and him, but the plans aren't going to come to fruition until around Christmas time. That's the impression I get from these cards. He has some very solid plans in his mind about Christmas. So maybe he has some plans. He's either traveling over water and is going to return around Christmas and has every intention of progressing your relationship together. Or you, if you are in a relationship, then it's been, I'd say around Christmas time, it was around Christmas time that you met, and he thinks you were the biggest gift around that time. So it shows me here he has a lot of hope and happiness in his mind. He must be in a sunny place at the moment. That's what it shows. You know, he can be very positive, very happy and clear. He's also a guy with a lot of energy and intellect. He's very honourable, he's loyal. But also it shows me that he can be a little bit cowardice. He can be a little bit deceitful. But I guess that's part and parcel of being a sensitive guy, because he's really, really sensitive. He's like, takes it all on board. It shows to me that he's out fishing at the moment, and it shows a place like Tahiti or Mauritius or someplace, Fiji. And I'm going to say it's like Fiji. It's because I can see here the huts on the water and him enjoying going fishing. So that must be where he is presently. I wouldn't be surprised if he's taking a world trip at the moment and he's a sailor. That's quite possible, just from looking at these cards. But that's just one element of the cards. So you might be able to identify with what I'm saying if you live near the water and you have a man that's inclined to enjoy those activities. But this is what I'm seeing. So it shows that wheel is turning, and it's turning in your favour. So I can see there's been a bit of negativity in the past where you haven't been able to get anywhere with him. Maybe that wheel stalled. Or maybe he was in a different position in his life and he couldn't move out of that position. But it also shows he's traveling, like he's on the move constantly. So I think what's happened is your relationship has been caught between his activities when you met and the aftermath of that. He's been busy with some negative stuff. Like he had snakes around him. So and there was a little bit of devil activity involved. So he's obviously turned out of that and gone travelling just to get that break, to release his sensitivities, to find some peaceful time for himself, that sort of thing, to start to develop his kingship again and to feel stronger as a person. Because obviously as a king he's well developed, so he could be older, but it shows he's not really old. He's like maybe middle-aged. He can see though that you are living your own life, that you're not looking at him, but you're central to his existence. So it's funny here that the little pets show up because he's out and about, you know, he's travelling, he's on his big break, whatever that may be. And I get the impression here that it's time for you both. That's what it shows with the wheel, that it's time for you both, but he has to return from wherever he is. Shows that it could be his birthday soon as well. Could this be a present to himself or something? The King of Cups is a water sign, so that's Pisces, Scorpio and Cancer. So maybe he's a Cancer because it's Aries now, Gemini, then Cancer. So maybe quite soon he will have his birthday, and it shows up that his birthday is in the near future and that he's a Cancer. So that's something else to keep in mind. He's very he recognizes that you have been extremely devoted to him. It's not a strong devotion, but it's enough to keep his interest. That's what it shows me. It shows me that he appreciates your devotion, so he's returned that with his loyalty. It also shows that he has a lot of loyalty himself, strength and wisdom. So he can be a very calming fellow, a very calm fellow. But I see there's a little bit of fire in him. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if he was out on his boat somewhere, or yacht or something. That's what it shows very clearly. So he must be feeling in his alone time, because I don't see anybody else in these pictures. So he's very much on his own. I don't know if he can take his dog and his cat with him. That seems a bit unusual. I know people take their dogs, but a cat I'm not so sure about. It's just unusual that they show up, or his pets show up, because he's away from them. Maybe they think that he's with you. Because they look very grumpy. You can see they're together. If they're in a kennel or something, you can see they're together, but they're apart from him. So I don't think he's taken them with him. But his dog especially is getting angry, you know. And I'd say it's a him. He's really, you know, just red with rage, like he could just explode, because he thinks you're the one that's taken his master. You know, he thinks his master has chosen you over them, and he's really angry. So it looks like you'll have something to deal with when he gets back. He might be misbehaving or something like that. But of course, you know, as I said before, that's just one element in the cards. The most promising aspect of these cards is that he wants to take you around the world with him eventually. That's what he thinks about in his solitude. He thinks to himself, I am alone here, out in the wilderness or on my holiday with water surrounding me. I feel alone here in this expanse, and I want my lady with me on that trip with me. I want to travel with my lady. I want her by my side. I want to wake up and cuddle her every morning. I want her constantly there, and I want to admire her every day and tell her how beautiful she is. That's the impression I get from these cards. So that's very promising, because with the Wheel of Fortune here, it just tells me that there's been a bit of unpredictability just in the recent past with you both. But now that wheel's turning back in your favour, and you are now his central focus. There seems to be some completion with that karmic cycle as well. So you're going to find that the karmic cycle turns in your favour. The challenge is that he is extremely sensitive. So trying to progress this relationship forward is going to be dependent on his sensitivities. But in saying that, the cards look positive. It's like you are so central to his existence that he can do nothing else but follow through with his plans to see you, to develop this relationship, to tell you how much he cares for you, and to take next steps. And at the moment, that's all melding together. So it actually looks extremely positive. And the truth of the situation is that he's in love with you. Those emotions are very strong, and he's very focused on you. And quite frankly, there are no other third parties in this situation except for his pets if he has them. Okay, so that's the first deck. Okay, so this is deck 2. I have the Ace of Staves, the 10 of Staves, and the Ace of Coins, if you would like to follow along. Because I assume some of you would have your own tarot deck. So those are the cards I've pulled. It shows me here that he has a boner for you, basically. He's very passionate about you. Extremely passionate. And he knows he's missing that piece in his life. And he knows he's missing that piece in his life, being yourself, that love piece in his life, because he's been focused on his money and his career. And it is a challenge for him to extricate himself from that career, from that money-making ambition. Break free from that and get the girl that he likes and wants, because it shows here that he's an extremely independent individual. Now, I know we've seen in the past a third party, But there's no third party in these decks that I'm bringing up this time round. And if you've been following other readings and you know your man to have a third party, and I've confirmed that with you, then something's gone askew. Because those third parties are out of the picture in these readings that I'm doing for you now. So something's gone on. I think your men have ended it. You know, I saw all those ending cards. We got death here, death there, you know, which is an ending at its basic interpretation. I think things are progressing. I think you've got almost a single guy again. So that's fantastic, because I mean, if you've got a single guy now, you have options to move your relationship forward. If you're still interested in the person that you were crushing over before. So it shows that he works so hard. It has a dual message. He works hard. First of all, he works hard in his career. Second of all, he works hard to try and find that extra person in his life. And it's upsetting him now, because he's staunchly independent. He's fiery, he's dynamic, he's really strong. That's what I get. But his career has taken over his love life. And he's getting a little bit upset about not having his partner, not having a partner in his life. It shows to me he's a very passionate person. So I think he goes out there and he finds himself casual partners. But he knows he's missing you from his life. That's something he understands quite well. It shows he's gone through a cycle of this career. So it's basically taken over his whole life. And he's really just been focused on his sex life and his casual affairs. It shows that he's loyal to being independent, to being a single guy, but that another part of him is looking for that counterpart. He feels a bit deceived in his work or career. It's like he's upset now because he's realised he put so much effort in, but he was lied to in some respect. There's been something that's gone on where he's been deceived in his job, and he had such a focused belief in the work he was doing. So maybe, you know, there was some corruption or in his work, or he was lied to, or he didn't get the money that he was promised. Something along those lines, because that's what it shows. That he's put so much effort in, and he has managed to acquire funds. It's not like he's faced this deceit in his career and he's gone without. He still managed to acquire stability and monetary wealth. That's what it shows. But it's cost him his counterpart. The challenge in the relationship between you is the stability. Because I think he's used to having casual lovers. And he's staunchly independent. But what it shows is that he does want to come forward to you with an offer. Like, he just wants to come in very strongly. I see a man that's going to try and really try hard in some respect towards you. Like, he's going to be very strong about the way he approaches you. He's going to come across as very grounded. But the situation is that he's really pushing forward at the moment. So I think he understands that he's worked really hard with his casual relationships to try and find his counterpart. Like, he's dated maybe over 10 or more women. It shows in this card, the 10 of Wands, that he could have had maybe 10 relationships, because it shows he's gone through a cycle. But the relationships have just turned out to be quite casual. And I think he was trying to find something more in those women, but he couldn't find it. Like, he couldn't find somebody he thought he could partner up with long term. And, it just shows that he's been the person that he relies on most above all of those other women. But it shows that you are a challenge to him, because you also show up as the Ace of Pentacles. He is the Ace of Wands. So it's like he has a really strong desire to set up a love affair with you, which is strong, which is passionate, which is stable, which ensures that he has his that he's not left alone anymore, that fills that other seat. But it shows that the truth of his feelings towards you is that he wants to start a new relationship with you, which creates a sense of happiness, fulfillment, and love. And that's shown here in the 10 of Wands, where he doesn't want to be alone anymore. He wants his counterpart, and he will really take strong moves to ensure that he gets the lady he wants, and that lady is you. And it shows that he's been really patient over the years. So is this somebody you've known for quite a long time? Because that's what it shows. He's just firing up. Because it says that patience and fortitude conquer all things. That's a quote by Emerson. But that's the attitude he's taking. That's within the situation. I can see he's quite a messy office. So he must be a person that accumulates a lot of paperwork. And he's gone through these episodes in his life because he thinks that wealth is a way to experience life. He thinks that wealth will enable him to live a fuller life. So he's really put a lot of effort into his career. But he's just getting inspired about you now. He thinks he's at the point where he's shown enough patience. He's built his career or his wealth, and now he wants to go after you. It really shows strongly there. Like I can't express to you how incredibly bold and powerful the Ace of Wands is, because it shows that he plans on going after you, getting out of his work slump and moving forward. And maybe you felt that. Maybe you felt his energy around you. That's the impression I get. You really would have felt that he's a dynamo and that he is after you. Shows here again there's been like a slippery, been a little bit of a snake within his career, but we already explored that. So this card that I have in front of me confirms what we saw, where there was some kind of just deception in his career, and maybe that's what's motivated him to move towards you in a more courageous sense, because before it was his be-all and end-all, and now he's decided that it wasn't so worthwhile because he didn't have his counterpart. He didn't have you. That's what it shows very clearly. So I'm getting the impression here this is a guy you've known for a while, like maybe a decade. So he could be somebody you're acquainted with, or you've been acquainted with for a while. That's what it shows very clearly. But he does have plans to share that wealth with you. He wants to give over that wealth. He wants to give over his wealth and give over his sex to you, basically. He wants to give you his passion. He wants to give you his wealth. So those are the only two considerations he has in pushing all of those wands forward in his life. He regards you in such a high he looks upon you in such high regard that he wants to give over the two things in life that count. So that it shows here the situation is he is still pushing forward. There is a challenge at the moment in his career, but that there is a potential there now for a new romantic relationship. Okay, so that was deck 2.